Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another block for my summer sampler. This one is called Memory, and it is it is made with flying geese units, half square triangles, and single squares. And I made this one with two colors with plus a background. You can make it whatever colors you want. You can make that center star, the purple star here, you can just make that the same color as the background. I've seen it that way before too. So this is a 12-inch block. It's a 9-patch block, so it goes together in 9 sections. So I hope you'll stay with me and I'll show you how to make the memory block. Here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the memory block. First, for A, you're going to need one 4.5-inch square. For B, you'll need 8 2.5-inch squares. C is 4 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles. D is 8 2.5-inch squares. E is 4 2.5-inch squares. F is 4 3-inch squares. G is 4 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles. H is 4 3-inch squares, and I is 4 2.5-inch squares. So we have a lot of pieces here, but this is mostly going to be flying geese units and half square triangles. So those are pretty basic techniques. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing we're going to do is to make some half square triangles. And for these, we're going to use the F and the H squares. And you'll want to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of the H squares, or use foundation paper, or use any kind of method that you want to use to make 8 half square triangles. So you can make the 8 at a time, use the 8 at a time method, 4 at a time method, you know, whatever you want to do. This is just going to be the basic 2 at a time method that I'm using here. So I'm going to adjust the camera and we'll get started making half square triangles. Okay, so I'm ready to do the half square triangles, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of the drawn line. And I'm just going to chain piece all of these together. Okay, I'm just going to swing them around and then sew down the other side. Okay, now I'm going to snip these apart, and I'm then going to cut down along the drawn line here. So just right through here. I'm just going to use scissors. And then these need to be trimmed to 2.5 inches. And I'm going to use a little Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. And we'll trim these down to 2.5 inches, and then I will press them open towards the green, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is to make a 4-patch unit with these half square triangles, the I squares, and the E squares. And there may be some background noise because a thunderstorm is just blown up, and I don't want to stop snowing. I don't want to stop sewing, and we really need the rain right now, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay, so what I want is I'll have the E square here, and then opposite that will be the I square, and then the half square triangles will point towards the center. So that's the 4-patch unit that we're making. See if I can get in a little closer. Right there. So this is the 4-patch unit. right here. That's a little better. So this is D square, the I square, and then 2 half square triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now I have my sets of patches here. I'm going to sew these together into a 4 patch. So I've got my seams pressed towards opposite directions. I have this one towards the green square, this one towards the white square. So I can nest my seams here, and then I just sew these together to make the 4 patch. And it is underneath. Okay, so here we have the 4 patch unit. So I'm going to press these, and then we can move on to the flying geese units. Okay, for the flying geese units, we're going to make 2 different sets. We're going to do one with the C rectangles and the B squares, and the other set is going to be the G rectangles and the D squares here. So what you can do is to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of all of your squares, or you can use seam tape or glow line tape or diagonal seam tape, however, whatever kind of tape you want to put on your machine. Okay, so we're working with the B and the C pieces right now. So I'm going to take a B square and place it on the rectangle, and I'm going to sew from this corner to this one. And I'm going to use the glow line tape on my machine to guide me, but you can draw a line on there. You can also use tools that will help you make flying geese units. There's an Eleanor Burns tool you can buy. You can buy foundation paper. There is a 2 at a time method, I believe, to make flying geese, which I've not tried that. This is the method I prefer. Okay, so I'm going to clip these apart, and then I'm going to trim the corner, leaving a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, just like that, and then I'm going to press this open like this, and then I'll sew on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to sew on the opposite side. And I'm going to start from the center and sew out to the opposite corner. Okay, now I'm going to trim off this corner, and then I will press, and these flying geese units will be done, and I'll move on to the D and the G pieces to make those flying geese units. Okay, this is the next day, and I had to stop last night because of the storm that went through. We started getting hail, and my machine is right up in front of a window, so just for safety's sake, I shut everything down and then went downstairs. But everything's fine. We desperately needed the rain, and things are just fine right now. Anyway, the next step, I have the 2 sets of flying geese all done, and now I need to sew them together in pairs here. And how they're going to go is we're going to put the one with the purple on the bottom, and then we're going to match the green together, so they're going to look like this. So I'm going to sew these together, and let me trim this one. There's a little extra fabric right there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to clip these apart and then press, and I'll show you what these look like. So here they are. So we got the flying geese units together. They look pretty good, and they all look, I think they all look fine. So ready to move on to the next step, and that will be to put everything and to lay out all the pieces, and then we'll sew the block together into rows. So now I'm ready to lay all the pieces out and to form the block, and then I will sew them into rows and then sew the rows together. So I'm going to start with the center with the A square, and then the flying geese units go on each side. So we're just going to match all the purple up to each other. All the purples face each other. So like this, and then the 4 patches will go in the corners. And just like that. So there are a lot of pieces to this block, but they're not difficult. You got flying geese units and half square triangles, and single squares here in the corner and a large one in the center. So that all goes together pretty easy, and now we can sew it together as a 9 patch. So I'm going to sew the units into rows, and then I'll sew all the rows together. So I'm going to start like this. I'm going to sew all of these together, and then I'll add the 3rd piece, and then I'll sew all the rows together. Okay, I'm going to match seams and points where I can. And here we go. Okay, here is the completed block, and I think that turned out pretty well. A lot of pieces, but they're just flying geese units and half square triangles, so that's all there is to it. This could look different depending on the colors of fabric that you put in here. The sample I saw, the drawing I saw, the center star was the same color as the background, but I thought that was a little too plain, so I decided to do a complementary color to the green, so I did the purple. So I think that turned out pretty well. So hope you'll give this block a try. Okay, that's it for this video on the memory block. This one turned out well. This video took me 2 days to film because we had a thunderstorm right in the middle of sewing the blocks, and turned out to have a lot of hail, and my sewing machine is right up against this window here, and so I thought it would be best to just shut everything down and wait until the storm passed through because we had a lot of hail. Everything's fine. There's been no damage that I can see. Of course, this is a rental, so it's not my responsibility anyway, which is a plus when you rent. But the cars were in the garage, so no damage to our personal property anyway. Anyway, this memory block was really pretty easy to put together, even though there are a lot of pieces, but you know, there's just you know, a couple of units to put together, and that's it. So I hope you give this one a try. So if you like this video, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.